Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime is super close to releasing, and with it has come a ton of theories on what the chapter could contain or be about. And today I wanted to talk about a few of my favorite mini theories about the chapter, starting with theory number 1, the phone theory, which is a theory that simply brings up one extremely important question about Chapter 3, being that in the game's second teaser trailer, we see a ton of extremely important images and messages all over the walls. That is, except for this one shot here that shows a phone laying on the ground with no real importance or relevance to the chapter. What is this phone for? Well, if you are a regular in the Poppy community, you probably know that this isn't the first time that we've ever seen the phone, as in the most recent Project Playtime update all the way back in June, in the screening room, we were actually given a new VHS tape about the Bigger Bodies Initiative, and also a gift from a mysterious text in the tape that is none other than this exact phone. Now, even to this day, not much is known about this mysterious person or people sending us this phone, but we know that they were most likely related to the toys in the factory of some sorts, judged by the fact that in their VHS they literally say, "You wonder who we are, but why? You should know it was your doing that made us," since we play as an employee in the factory who of course are seen experimenting on the creatures. However, while we are still waiting for answers on what this phone could be for in Project Playtime, because it's still functionless to this day, moving over to Chapter 3, we can see the phone this time laying on the floor while also making a loud beep as if somebody was just using it and the phone was still on, which, judged by the fact that Project Playtime takes place before the factory is closed while Poppy Playtime takes place after, at some point in between these two games, after getting this phone from the sender, either us or the person on the other line ends up having something happen to them in the play care. And since it's all but confirmed that this phone is being used for the Chapter 3 ARG whenever that comes out, I assume that's when we will learn about what actually happened here and how it connects to Project Playtime in Chapter 3. But to make some early predictions, I actually think that this is our phone in Project Playtime laying here in the trailer, and at some point we will somehow be led into the play care where we will presumably die, at least in that timeline. Since, as we mentioned before, the person talking to us on the line is presumably one of the toys or experiments, and we have seen plenty of toys around the factory being extremely violent and vengeful to the employees for what they did to the children, obviously.
They left Mommy to die alone, but you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
And in fact, in the main game storyline, we were literally manipulated by the Poppy doll into going into the play care in the first place. So I wonder if perhaps this phone and the whole situation could be the toy's way of taking revenge on us for what we did. And at some point in the ARG, we will be led into the play care by the people talking to us through the tapes, where I can only imagine we will meet our fate, as we can see. It's an interesting theory, but an even more interesting one is the children are still alive theory, which is a theory that has been relatively popular in the Poppy community since before Chapter 3, suggesting that some of the children inside of the play care are actually still alive and are somewhere inside of the factory, those of which we will presumably meet in the play care in Chapter 3. And this theory mostly stems from the question of when all of the employees went missing in Playtime Co. and the factory shut down, what happened to all of the children in the play care orphanage? Did they simply just die? Or even darker, are they some of the dead beings we see around the play care in the trailer? Well, possibly. But on the brighter side, people have pointed out that in the original Chapter 1 trailer, we could see a bunch of text in the background describing the prototype Experiment 1006 as a perfect experiment by saying, despite his digestive tract being wired properly, the prototype finds no necessity for sustenance unlike the others. Meaning that outside of Experiment 1006, all of the toys we see in the factory needed to have some sort of sustenance or food to be eating in order to survive and not starve. Which of course means that since we can see multiple toys around the factory still alive over 10 years after it closed, there has to be some sort of food that they are eating. More specifically, I want to look at Kissy Missy, because we see her in the game come out and help the player with no real anger or aggression towards us. She's actually really friendly, and even more interestingly, we know in her restricted relocation tape for chapter 3 that she was originally sent into the play care for a reason we don't currently know. Perhaps it was to calm the panicking children down or something, since we can hear their faint screams once she arrives at the location. But what this has made people wonder is that if she's known for caring about people in the factory, including the employees who made her, she was living in the play care at the time of the factory's closure and was still alive, meaning she had some type of food source. Maybe she could have been protecting and feeding these children in the factory in some way, and we could eventually encounter them in chapter 3. Or maybe, if you want to be darker, maybe the food source the monsters are eating from in question was, well, you know. But the last and maybe most important theory that I wanted to talk about is the multiple bigger bodies theory. See, in the Bigger Bodies initiative that turned the orphans into toys to work for the factory, generally it's been established that there's only one bigger body for every toy. There's one Huggy, one Mommy, one Kissy, and any other bigger version of a toy, there's usually only one. Outside of maybe the mini Wuggies, but that's different because there's meant to be lots of them in the first place. However, what's extremely interesting is that this past Easter, we actually got a comic from none other than Bunzo Bunny, doing a simple choose your own adventure style game where he searches for eggs, and in the end, he falls into a trap where he presumably starves to death and dies. Now, I've theorized about this comic before and still haven't come to a good conclusion on what it means, if I'm being honest. But what's most important about it is at the very end, we can see an official render of a dead Bunzo Bunny laying there on the ground after falling into the trap. And what's weird is if this Bunzo Bunny is completely dead and we fight a different Bunzo Bunny in chapter 2 before he himself is killed by Mommy Longlegs, then this seems to be proof that there are actually multiple versions of the bigger bodies that exist. And this theory or breakthrough, if it's really true, actually changes the entire lore of the game in chapter 3. Because we have seen tons of alive mini toys and stuff before around the game. That's nothing really new. But if this is proof that there are two bigger bodies of Bunzo Bunny, then who knows how many versions of other toys there are. Maybe there are multiple Mommy Longlegs or Kissy Missies with different personalities and different ways of living. In fact, a big purpose of the chapter 3 teaser trailer was to show us that Huggy Wuggy was in fact dead despite many rumors. And we can even see his head laying on top of the prototype monster, confirming that he can't be in chapter 3. But this comic to me appears to be proof that this is all actually entirely wrong, and there in fact can be multiple bigger bodies of the same exact character. And if we apply this theory into the chapter, we can use it to say that maybe this dead Huggy could be completely different from the one that we saw in chapter 1. Or what about characters like Mommy Longlegs? We have established for so long that Mommy Longlegs was a child named Marie Payne. This multiple toys theory would essentially break the entire lore for Poppy Playtime and everything we know about it, and I honestly hate the theory. So to be honest, I'm gonna choose to just disregard it and not believe it until I get more evidence, but let me know your thoughts on it, like the video, and peace out.